Okay, wow, I was not expecting my chair to literally, I think this chair started to mess up. I don't know if y'all noticed. The chair was like up this high, and as soon as I sat down, it went all the way down. Either way, what I was going to say is normally I would like to do these type of videos in front of my computer, the super serious videos. However, I want to do this video right in front of the shelf that me and my grandpa made because I want to flex this shelf as much as I can after all the comments that I got about not having this shelf. Now, jokes aside, this video that I'm making is a pretty big deal for myself, mainly because I am somebody that really never talked about this much, and the fact that I'm doing this is pretty crazy. And I've thought about it. I've kind of canceled doing this a few times, but ultimately I decided I needed to do this because this is a closing chapter in my life, but also a start of a new chapter. So this needed to be done because this was such a big part of my life. That being said, I'm gonna try my absolute best to not make this video drag on. I have notes on my phone making sure that I talk about every topic that I want to bring up when it comes to this. And even when I talk about this, there's just gonna be so much stuff that's left out because there's just not enough. Like, bro, they would have to make like a Netflix documentary on everything that I would have to be talking about because this video just does not cover enough. But I'm gonna do my best to make like a nutshell version of everything that we're talking about today, and hopefully it doesn't end up being a super long video. I need to fix this chair. This is on my nerves. Okay, there we go. So my name is Max, if you didn't already know. If you're watching this video out of nowhere, well, this is kind of a weird video to be your first video since we're a Nintendo channel and we're here talking about health stuff on a Nintendo channel, which is something that not most people do. But, you know, for the sake of what this topic is, I need to do this video one time because, like I said, closing chapter. I have something called hemophilia. It's a bleeding disorder. It is a thing. I don't want to talk about too much about it because, again, I'm trying to make this video short. But if you really want to look into it, you can do Google. It's a very popular thing that all of us use. Look into it. It's a bleeding disorder. Pretty big deal. A very big deal, especially back in the day. Oh my goodness gracious. That was like a horrible thing to have in terms of depending what you were trying to do. It was a very rare condition. I was born with it, so I've had it with me this entire time. Now, with that being said, when you have a bleeding disorder as a kid, that might be pretty chaotic to have because, you know, us kids, when we start off as kids and babies, all that type of stuff, we do crazy things. We are very hyper. We want to do the most crazy things. Like myself, I was climbing up a fireplace when I was, I think, 2. And I did it a few times, but my dog actually tattletaled on me and told my mom somehow. Like, he was running from the living room to my mom's office. Like, the dog was trying to get my mom's attention, which I guess it's good that my dog was trying to save my life because I think that's a very rare thing to see something like that happen. Either way, though, I could have done it. I would have been fine because little does my family know, I've already done the fireplace multiple times. I was like climbing through a what's it called, a couch to get to the top. It was crazy. It's crazy to think the stuff that I did as a kid with the condition that I had, and considering I am very scared of heights now, which is crazy, again, thinking all the stuff that I did and when I lived in that first house. So having hemophilia led to a lot of things where you weren't exactly able to do a lot of like the normal things that, you know, kids would do because basically you'd bruise easily, bleeds could happen. It would be really bad if a bleed can happen because bleeds can happen easier. So much things with hemophilia. So keep that in mind as we talk about this throughout the video. And since I had that, I never talked about it with people because I had noticed when I did talk about me having it, I noticed that some people would kind of treat me different. And I know that they were just looking out for me, looking for my best interest and all that good stuff. But for me as a kid, I didn't like that. I felt that I wasn't looked the same and I couldn't be with the crowds, if that makes sense. So I always avoided talking about the fact that I had hemophilia. And some of you probably don't know that I had it because in this channel, I don't really talk about it. In my life, I never really talked about it. It's been like this for a while. So how they would treat my hemophilia as a kid, they would have to put a needle either in my hand, over here. I think at one point they filled up a whole box of needles because they couldn't find a vein. So they had to go on my head when I was a baby. I think they got someone from a helicopter at the front of the hospital or something. It was pretty crazy to get me treated for my medication when I was a baby because they could not get a vein. And for years, I wouldn't say, actually, I guess years is the right word. I think I was having to get needles in my hands and all that for, I want to say, probably 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years. Obviously, I don't remember the childhood stuff very well because most people when they're that young don't typically remember that. But I had to get those needles probably like multiple times a week due to the fact that they couldn't get a vein and they had to treat my treat hemophilia with this what's called factor to get me through these next few days in case something happened or me be able to do certain things, activities. I would have to wear things like a knee pad and stuff like that when I was a kid, baby, that type of stuff. Like I said, there's a lot more to this, but I'm trying to make this not a super long video, and I have a feeling with everything that I have in my notes, it's still gonna be a long video. So eventually when I got older, they actually put an implanted port into me. Now, this first port was a very big deal in my life because it led to me not having to get needles in my hands anymore. They were constantly being used, my hands, so the veins were super weak and it was super painful as a kid. Those were horrible for me. So when needles go in here, it's a little bit traumatizing for me, to be honest. I know for most people it wouldn't be, since that's probably a rare thing for people to get needles in here, but for me, it was not a rare thing. It was an extremely common thing to do. So being able to have a port in me, they were able to do my medicine, all that, just put it in here. I think it was like either once or twice a week. I don't remember very well, to be honest, because like I said, I was young and medication for hemophilia was not the greatest at my age, at least as a baby, basically. But that first port that I had was life-changing no matter what, because I still didn't have to get the needles in the hand, and that was causing so much pain to me. I was always crying as a kid. It was horrible. So like I said earlier, I wasn't able to do a lot as a kid because there was a lot of things you had to consider. If I was to get hurt, it would be basically 8 times worse than anybody else would. So like, I don't know what's a great example here, but tripping on something and falling as a kid would be 12 times worse for me than any other kid, basically, if they didn't have what I had, which was the hemophilia. So it led to me not being able to do a lot, which is why video games were such a big part of my life and why I love Nintendo, PlayStation, and all that. And, you know, Spider-Man, stuff like that, because that was my entertainment. That's what I got to do, basically. That was, I guess, my treat is what we'll call it, was doing that type of stuff. And I loved it. I love video games. I still love video games. I will always love video games and movies, TV shows, all that, because it holds a very special part in my life because of my hemophilia. For some, it might not be that big of a deal for people, but for me, that stuff's very important to me because of this. So I had the port for about, I want to say it was like 2007 till 2014. So I had it for 7 years, the first port. And everything was about the same for me. Obviously, I wasn't doing knee pads anymore. Medication was getting better, but there were still obviously limitations to what I could do. Jumping into 2014, though, we ran into problems. I believe it was August 2014. Obviously, these ports stop working a certain amount of time when they are being used so much. So my port was in me for 7 years at the time that this happened. And I believe most ports, I might be wrong about this, I'm not a doctor, but I believe most ports only last 4 years. So my port was starting to have some issues going into August. I felt like there was something coming out of my neck when a needle was going in there, and it didn't feel comfortable. My mom, shout outs to her, she trained herself to be able to inject the medication into me when I had my port here. Eventually, like when we started off, we had home Medicare or something. They would have a nurse come out basically and do it. And then my mom eventually learned how to do the port. We had somebody do my hands because the hands, they just very hard to get a vein at the time. So when I was having issues with my port, my mom decided to take me to the doctor's office to check on it, make sure everything's okay, because it was very weird. Because at one point when she was doing my medication for my, hemophilia, I jerked and I couldn't control myself. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but like normally I can control myself from like moving and stuff. My body was just automatically doing it with that needle connected there, which meant that something was wrong with the port. And I think they were basically saying that the port was at its phase where it was done. It was not going to work. It was time to look for getting this port out. So we took the port out, I had surgery. I think it was unexpected surgery, I would say, since we weren't sure what was going on with the port. So it was my second surgery as, 2014, so I would have been 11 years old. And so we decided that it would be best for me to try to not get a second port after that, that we were gonna go back to the hands, which I was not happy about, but I understand why the decision was made. And ultimately, after a few months of that, it didn't work out. The veins were constantly being used. I think there has been a lot of damage done to my hands because of how much it was used. And it was used a ridiculous amount of times when I was a baby, kid, and all that. I think that to this day, it's going to always be difficult to get a needle into my veins and all that because of how much these veins have been used. So then we jump into 2015, January. We decided to get me the second port. Very glad that we did. Everything was good. Back to my normal life, all that good stuff. Started going into 2016. I think I would be, 13 at the time, so I was a teenager. I was starting to want to do more things, and it just, it was hard for my parents to be like, yeah, because obviously I understand, hemophilia, it was a crazy thing at that timeline because of the medication. If I got hurt, it was just a very big deal and all that. But for someone in my life, no was not an option for him. He wanted to make sure that as a teenager, I made sure I got to do all of these things. So for this part of my life, this person ended up being a big part of my life because this person was able to convince my mom in letting me do a lot of things that to me and probably from my parents were things that they never expected me to be able to do at the time because of this hemophilia, because what they were told. Because when they found out I had hemophilia, I think they literally told my mom that I was going to, she was going to be accused of child abuse and stuff. So they were probably traumatized about everything, which is, again, understandable. But this person wanted to make sure I still had an incredible teenage life and be able to experience all that a teenager would, camp, all that type of stuff, roller coasters, all that. So we're gonna give a big shout out to Pastor Calvin. I know he probably doesn't watch the channel, but I still want to give him a shout out because he was a very big part of my life, because without him, he just was able to convince a lot of things to happen in my life. Like going to a camp by myself, for example, that would have been something just unimaginable, to be honest, because at the time, like I said, we're going to get into it later. Hemophilia is a lot better now, but again, in that timeline really wasn't. And Pastor Calvin, throughout that whole timeline, wanted to make sure that I got to do so much. So I really want to give him a big shout out and a big thank you, because just no was not good enough for him. He made sure, and he convinced my mom, which again, you got to look at it from the hemophilia side of point, because it would be crazy to think about letting your kids do all of this after everything you've been told, seeing, and all doing everything that you've had to do with hemophilia. So I know for people watching this video, it might be like, oh, why? But just trust me on that. And especially if you look into what hemophilia is, you might see why. Although, again, it might be different looking up hemophilia in today's time compared to like 20 years ago. So big shout outs to Pastor Cal, which, fun fact, he was actually there when my first port got removed and there when I got my second port added. So he was there for 2 of the surgeries. So we continue on with my second port. I'm able to do, or slowly starting to be able to do more things because, you know, my mom and dad, they were like, okay, let's start having him do more things. We feel comfortable, the medication's getting better. Still need to be careful, extremely careful, but let's make this happen. Let's let Max go on a camping trip. The same year, I got to go to King's Dominion. I was not by myself, I was with my grandpa, but that was still a very big trip that would have been considered kind of impossible. And Pastor Calvin, big shout outs to him because he made the camping trip, the King's Dominion trip, and so many more things happen. So big shout outs to him because of the convincing and him being like, no is not good enough for me. So it wasn't until 2020 when this new medication came out where it would allow myself to do medications on my stomach or thigh. I think I could even do this. I think there's a few other places I can do, but I only do my stomach because I'm nervous for the other places. And I didn't have to use the port anymore, which was kind of crazy to think. And this medication allowed me to have to only do this once a week. And the even crazier thing about the medication that I'm on now is instead of doing once a week now, I can do every other week due to the amount of weight that I have lost. This is where I would give a major shout out to Dr. Bryant. Now, I know Dr. Bryant has done way more for me than what I'm talking about in this video, but to be completely honest, that part of my life is stuff that I don't remember very well because I was incredibly young. I was in the baby stages, kid phase, that type of stuff. But Dr. Bryant was my doctor for like 16 years, 15 years, something like that. A very long time. Like, I used to have the most crazy nosebleeds of all time. Like, I'm not even joking. And she taught my mom the trick of apparently, and I bet some of you watching this video don't know this as a trick. I don't know if it's public knowledge, but you can put like bacon in your nose and then it stops the bleeding. The smell of bacon can stop a nosebleed, which is crazy to think. That like, how do you learn that? That's wild. But the reason why I give her a major shout out is when she put me on this medication, and after being on it for a while, she actually approved me to start doing boxing work on a punching bag, which would have been crazy to think that I could do if you look at my whole life, basically. So we would only use the port at that point if there was any bleeds. And I think within the 4 years of me being on this medication, I think we only had to use the port maybe like 1 or 2 times for bleeds, I think. And they weren't even like bleeds. They weren't dangerous or anything. It was just a precaution just to be safe. I don't think I had anything like super crazy because, you know, this medication, it was like very great, basically. Amazing. And now I have, in the last year, and I think this is something we talked about in the end of year video, because I always make those, my new doctor has approved me for sparring. I was able to start sparring. I just first had to get this port taken out. They wanted me to, which is understandable. You don't want to spar when you have an implanted port inside of you. Which again is something crazy to think about if you look at my history, which however long this video is not a good indication of the history of my life and what I went through when it came to hemophilia. Now, we don't need this port anymore. We are, as the moment this video comes out, the very next day I am having surgery of getting this implanted port out of me. That way I can do more things like the boxing, because I really love the boxing that I'm doing. I've lost so much weight. I was already losing weight before boxing, but it's helped me even more. And I've shown footage of how I've been unboxing, but I've gotten like so much better. Like, y'all would not believe how incredible I am looking on the punching bag right now. It's been over a year since I posted footage. There's a reason why. I want the next footage just to be groundbreaking, and it's going to be groundbreaking. And even before I got this surgery, at my last doctor's appointment a few weeks ago, they have gone as far to have proved me to start even looking into professional boxing, meaning no headgear, which again, extremely crazy to think about if you look at the history of my life. This is something that should not be possible. Let's just be honest. It should not be possible with the stuff that was told to me as a baby before when I was born to my parents. And something that I've noticed over the last year, I have been way more comfortable telling people that I have hemophilia. It was something that I never talked about. I know that I asked my mom to not tell people because I just didn't want people to know about it. And now that it's something that I don't feel like really holds me back anymore, it's still an important thing. It's still, you know, it can be an issue, but it's I guess a very easy, I don't even know easy, but it's a fixable thing now. It's nowhere near as dangerous as it used to be. Oh my gosh, there's a bug over here. I gotta kill this thing. Well, I was gonna try to kill that bug, but I literally can't reach it. That stinks. Man, I'm trying to make like a super serious video here. I got a bug that's trying to kill me. So I'm at a point in my life where like, I'm super comfortable telling, like I'm making this video. This is a crazy thing for me to do. I don't think I was really talking about hemophilia at all. I know on my live streams, I've sometimes talked about it. I've told some of the content creators, my friends in the scene, the content creation scene about it, but it's at a point now that I'm comfortable talking about, which is very crazy to say. If you look at the history of my life, like I said before, I wish I could talk more about it, but it's kind of impossible to talk about it in such a short time. And the developments of medications are only gonna get better from here. This is stuff that if you told hemophilia people like probably 10 years ago, they'd be like, no, impossible, there's no way. And I know it's just gonna get better from here on out. Especially like 10 years from now, it's gonna be crazy to think where the medication and all that's gonna be. I know my last doctor's appointment, they were talking about they're in the works of medication where you'll only have to take once a month. That would be a crazy development that they're looking to get that like early, mid next year. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is I'm taking a break from the YouTube channel for just a little bit for a few reasons. One, I haven't had a break really in a bit. Not that I'm getting burnt out or anything, but it's important to take breaks. And normally I take a little bit of a break when I come back from too many games. Obviously, I didn't get that chance to take that break because we had too many games in Southeast Game Exchange back to back. And I quickly want to say, because I wanted to make a video talking about this, but I just didn't get the chance. I want to quickly give everyone a big thank you that said hello to me at Southeast Game Exchange in Too Many Games. Especially crazy with Too Many Games because there was so many people as I was recording my video and outside of recording my video of people just wanting to talk to me saying thank you for the videos. It's great to meet you. I was taking photos, signing people's autographs. I signed like a few copies of Balan Wonderworld. That's crazy to think. And yeah, I signed so many things, took so many photos, met so many people. Like I want to say I met probably, I don't know, like 30, 40 people at Too Many Games, which is again crazy to think. In Southeast Game Exchange, we had our own panel. So many people came out to that. I met so many people throughout Southeast Game Exchange. It was like, thank you for the videos. You make incredible content. You got a big future here. And I wanted to say thank you a lot for that because that means a lot to me. So I'm taking a break from the streaming. I've been streaming a lot more. I want to to let y'all know that. And there's still videos coming out on the channel. The twice a week schedule is still going strong. We just have so many pre-recorded videos that it might be a little weird, some of the stuff you hear me say, because I know one of the few of them I recorded back in June in terms of like Switch game hunting videos, and it might be a little weird for you to see something that was recorded in June come out in what, like September or something. So wanted y'all to know about that in case you're like, huh, why did Max say that? Because I planned these videos out. We recorded so much in advance, that way I can take this break. It's not gonna be a long break, just like a week or two. I'll be back. I'll probably record something because even when I'm on a break, I still record something. I like YouTube so much. There's even rumors that a Nintendo Direct's happening next week. So that Direct's probably gonna happen the day of my surgery. So I might be doing something crazy. I might be coming back to YouTube temporarily to make a video the day of my surgery. Like I'll be coming back home from my surgery to do this Direct video. That's historic. Name me a YouTuber that's done a video on the day that they just got back from surgery. No one's done that, at least not a Nintendo YouTuber. And I also quickly want to say that we are so close to be able to hit my dreams of making my current job be part-time to focus more on YouTube, because this YouTube channel is doing so well. So thank y'all for the support. All the MONADO Marines out there that have been doing the $5 a month, watching the videos. It's helping out a ton. Even if you're not one of the MONADO Marine memberships, that's what we call it, you're still helping out the channel greatly watching the videos. So thank you very much. I think that's pretty much it. I think I've talked about everything that I want to. It's super late. I've been, like I said, I wasn't sure if I was gonna do this, if I should do this, but it is an important video that's different on this channel. It's not Nintendo related, but I know this is gonna be one of those videos that I look back like 10, 20 years from now and be like, wow, I made that. I talked about that, because this is a very big deal for me. So I want to close this out by giving a huge honorable, actually, yeah, I guess honorable mention and then shout outs. I don't know, because these are people, very big part of my life with the hemophilia. Now, there's still way more people that probably should be on this list, but I want to keep it short and sweet for the people that made big impact, and also people have mentioned in this video, because if I talked about more people, this video would just be super long. And like I said, it's already long enough. So we're keeping it to these people. I got the list right here. Want to give a huge shout out to my mom, because like I said, she trained herself to do the needles with my port. This is a new step for her, not being able to have to do this anymore. And I'm sure, like I said, for her and my dad and my sister, when I was born, hearing all that was heard was probably horrible. I can't imagine, and I also just don't remember very well. Huge shout out to my dad, huge shout out to my sister, and now I'm actually not the only person in the family that has hemophilia. My nephew has hemophilia now, which I know by the time that he gets to an age that he wants to start doing stuff, he's not going to have to deal with anything that I had to deal with, which is going to be super awesome. So huge shout outs to Jalen out there, and huge shout out to Shaheen. Give a huge shout out to my grandpa and grandma. Fortunately, my grandma has passed away 10, actually about to be 10 years by the time November hits. So huge shout outs to her, and obviously my grandpa. Shelf, you know, we wouldn't have the shelf if it wasn't for my grandpa. A huge shout out to Pastor Calvin, because like I said before, it was a big part of the puzzle in my life, and I'm greatly appreciative towards him. And the same thing to Dr. Bryant. Huge shout out to her, because she was my doctor for so long, been there since I was so young, and helped me so much, be able to do so much too, and big part of the life basically. So huge shout out to her. With that being said, I hope y'all enjoy this video. I hope y'all enjoyed me talking about it. It's different. It's not Nintendo, but I wanted y'all to know why I'm gonna take a break, because I'm probably going to be in a lot of pain, I think, because this is my second port and there's scar tissue behind where they put the port, because they put the port in the same spot that the first port in, which is apparently unheard of. So yeah, fun times await me. I'm probably gonna be in so much pain, but we definitely making that comeback video temporarily. Obviously, I'm gonna go back on my break afterwards. If a Nintendo Direct is announced, I'll do that video. And then it's break time. If not, you're not gonna hear from me. You're just gonna hear from the past Max from a few months ago and whatever crazy adventures he's up to. I hope y'all have a wonderful night. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Backslash that subscribe button. Maybe we can get to 15K by the end of the year. And I love y'all to death. Check out the description. Come to MONADO Marine, $5 a month, all that good stuff. I will see you guys in the next video. Now I need to go find that bug before I go to sleep and wake up to a bug near me, because that's gonna be traumatic for me.